Dr. Disrespect himself talked about DEADROP's potential release date in 2024 on stream today. A lot of people are taking note of this, but there's a lot to discuss, a lot to analyze, to speculate on. Let's get right into it. We've got a ton of stuff to talk about. Before we listen to the clip though, it's important to remember that Dr. Disrespect is on stream. This is the Dr. Disrespect stream right here. This is not an official statement from Midnight Society. This was him answering a question on stream. Clearly, he's an important person within Midnight Society, being that he is a co-founder of the studio, and he also talks about his role in the studio a little bit, which is very interesting. Let's listen in here.
But now, like, the studio is like a machine. You know, in the beginning, it was definitely, I was, you know, heavily involved with sort of like the formation of the studio and the formation of ideas at the top. But like now that we have goals and design docs and we've got 45 plus devs, it's a machine. So it's like, okay,
yeah, now it's running itself now.
It's running itself. But at the same time, and you know, this next year is definitely our most important year. And now that we're going to kind of, you know, build a little bit behind the curtain, more so behind the curtain, rather than being so upfront with everything.
Yep.
You know, I think we played that card too, you know, a lot, which was good. It was good to build our community around the game and Midnight Society and get some excitement, generate some excitement with our founders. You know, they've been incredible. But we have to kind of like dig deep and finish this game. So.
When are you aiming for launch? Like, what's your ideal time, you think? Like, mid next year, 2025?
Yeah, next year. You know, mid. You know, there's no definitive date. You know, obviously, we focus on quality rather than like, hey, we got to. But you know, maybe third quarter.
Okay.
Maybe second quarter, maybe third quarter.
So now that you've heard it straight from Dr. Disrespect, that's what he said. We're gonna break this down into a lot to talk about here. He said quarter 3, maybe quarter 2. Again, not official. This is not a statement by Midnight Society. This is not the head of the studio, who's 402, coming out and announcing a date. This seems like an internal target. This is when we hope to, quote unquote, release DEADROP. And we're going to get into a whole discussion of what does release mean for a video game in 2023, because it's a lot different. That term is rapidly changing, right? And especially since Midnight Society's been doing open development, everything's different. So let's get into talking about what I think Doc is talking about, where I think the studio is going in 2024, where DEADROP is going. This is all basically speculative, but we are going to put together some dev comments and so on and so forth, and think about things just from my perspective. And I'm happy to have all you chime in the comments yourself with your own perspective and thoughts. But hopefully what I'm saying makes a little bit of sense. Hopefully I'm right. But if you hope I'm wrong, then I guess let me know too. Okay, so right off the bat, I want to say this. 402 and the whole studio since the launch of DEADROP Snapshot 7 have been clear that we're entering a new era for Midnight Society, a new time period where things are going to change. You know, the game really has to continue to ramp up, so on and so forth. And there's been a lot of speculation. Doc's made some comments on stream recently, and Robert Bowling, the head of Midnight Society, clarified some of these comments and said recently in the 12 a.m. Discord, by the way, which is where you all should be, the community involvement is not ending with DEADROP. Because, you know, Doc is talking about more going on behind the curtain. He keeps using that phrase. But 402 came right out and said, I don't want these comments to be construed as meaning that community involvement is ending. That's not true, and in many ways the community involvement is going to be more important and exciting than ever, right? So he's coming out and flat out saying, don't worry, you guys are going to continue to be involved, the founders, so on and so forth. Don't worry about that. When we're going to get more into that in a separate video coming in the next few days as well. But this leads us to, you know, if Doc wants, and this is, again, just Doc talking, we haven't heard officially from 12 a.m. or Rob, if they're thinking the game is actually going to be quote unquote out in 2024, which is consistent with since Snapshot 5, the Midnight Society website has said that Season 0 of the game will launch sometime in 2024. Everybody who bought a tower key will immediately get the Season 0 Battle Pass that's already included. So this really isn't news, right? So this leads us to a discussion of when does a video game constitute release these days. This is a rapidly evolving thing. Early access has totally changed the gaming industry over the last few years. Some games do early access with very liberal definitions. Some games use very conservative definitions. Some games don't use early access at all. Some games charge you $100 for 2 days early access, like Call of Duty. Sorry, I had to say it. But anyway, these days a lot of games release in early access. This helps fund the development of the game. It helps build the community and, you know, continue funding the development of the game. Obviously there's different genres and different approaches to early access, but Scum is a game that has been in early access for 5 years now. That's a very long time. I think they're at version what they call 0.95 these days. The game is coming to Xbox soon with the 1.0 release. We don't know when that's gonna be. I don't want to get into too much detail, but you see what I'm saying. Fortnite was in early access for a number of years, even after it blew up. The term early access casts a very wide net these days, right? So let's talk about what I think constitutes the smartest release for DEADROP to release, if it is going to release sometime, let's say Q3 2024. What approach should Midnight Society take? What should be there? What can wait till later? How can Midnight Society keep the community involved, even ramp up community involvement? Let's do it. And I want to clarify, for some reason, if you're not sure how quarters work, Q2 would be sometime April, May, or June. Q3 would be July, August, or September. So that's Doc is saying sometime in that time frame. And this makes a little bit of sense to me. Things have changed a lot in the gaming industry. But, you know, Q4, you're looking at October, November, December, the holiday season. That's normally when the biggest games of the year are released. And again, things have changed a lot with games as a service in general. You know, Fortnite, still one of the biggest games in the world, but that doesn't come out every holiday season. But anyway, you know, if they release in Q4, they're going to be up against the Call of Duties of the world, Gear 6, Halo Battle Royale. Those are just my hopes for fall 2024. But you get what I mean. Release in the spring or summer kind of thing for a new IP from a new studio might make a little more sense. You know, let the game breathe a little bit. It's not up against the big AAA blockbusters of the fall that every little kid, every little Timmy's gonna want under the Christmas tree, right? I mean, we do hope that that game is DEADROP, but that's kind of the mentality. And again, things have changed a lot, but you get what I'm saying. So I think one of the challenge that Midnight Society and DEADROP has faced with open development is obviously there's just a ton of gamers who, you know, they're used to playing quote unquote finished games. They're used to playing games that are totally polished, that have battle passes, that have a variety of skins and achievements and so on and so forth. And the open development process of DEADROP that we've been utilizing really doesn't obviously enable for that. We're playing blocked out maps. We're testing, you know, in the earliest version, we were using a firing range with one gun in it, right? There was no customization. Like, all of these things are features that gamers essentially expect. And with Snapshot 7, we really just got the building, all of the building blocks in place for the game and platform, which will become DEADROP. We have, you know, the core mode, we've got UGC, and we got Midnight Ride. The vendor is in there. A lot of those core systems are now in the game. It can be refined, polished up. The maps that we have at least can be arted. So when you're looking at from Midnight Society's perspective here and wondering, okay, where does the game go next? Where do we take this from here? How has the community responded? How have gamers responded in general to the game? So on and so forth. Where do we go? How do we bring this game closer to release? How do we engage more players, right? And from a business perspective, obviously at some point Midnight Society needs to make money. I think it's safe to say they are not making money right now. They're relying on, you know, invested funds from the co-founders and so on and so forth, potentially other investors. We don't really know. You know, most companies or most of us probably don't pay that close attention to the business side of some of this stuff. Most gamers, I think it's safe to say, and this doesn't even just mean the variants, most gamers in the broadest sense only care about playing a cool game, and that's it. So if it were me at this point in time, looking ahead, where does DEADROP go next? What should Midnight Society focus on? Especially if they want to get the game quote unquote out in Q3 2024. what approach should we take? To me, I think it's, we know there's 7 sectors in general, right? That's how many sectors there are planned for the tower. I don't think, personally, I'm just speculating, I don't think there's any way that we get 7 sectors at launch by Q3 2024, or even all of 2024, right? Like, I would think if we are going to get 7 sectors, we have, one arted, semi-arted, not finished sector in the game right now, that being cold storage. Then we have 2 proving grounds, which will become sectors once they are arted and so on. I think you take those 3 maps, those 2 proving grounds in sector 3, you finish those maps, you art them, and then you launch with those. You launch with those 3 sectors, and then obviously you refine the gunplay, and you get a lot of those things that gamers expect in the game. You get more incentives to play, like daily and weekly missions or challenges. You get a battle pass. You add more character and player customization. You polish everything, all the pieces that are in place now from a functional standpoint, right? You add a couple more weapons. You refine controller support so that in Q3 2024, hopefully, with more arted visuals and better controller support and so on and so forth, DEADROP can have a presence on console. And when, hopefully, if this thing comes out Q3 2024, remember I said if, this is all speculation on my part based on these comments and so on, and looking ahead, that okay, that's huge. Okay, now DEADROP is on console, the version that is on PC, that they're now in parallel. And you have all these new players invigorating the player base, not only hopefully new players from the PC angle, but players also from the console space, from Xbox and PlayStation, which is new blood as well. That'd be huge. This also means that DEADROP potentially, speculatively, reaches its vision of being free to play at that point, right? And the barrier of entry is very low right now. $9.99 for an access pass is really not much to ask, but it's been clear since day one that DEADROP was always going to be a free-to-play game. So then again, you reach more players that way, regardless of platform and method of release, right? And all of us who love the game and play it every day and stream it every day and stuff, we've got all these new people coming in to check out the game because they see finished visuals and all the stuff that they come to expect. Like I said, the battle passes, the objectives, the incentives, maybe some recognizable characters, and the awesome world that we all know DEADROP is going to be set in, and a little bit of seasonal narrative type stuff. I don't mean true narrative, but kind of like in the way that Apex Legends does narrative, or Overwatch or whatever, right? Like all those things that is really what drives games and players these days arrive with release. Now, this doesn't mean that means that open development ends, right? The founders still have a role at that point, or over these next few months, hypothetically. The founders will then get to decide, okay guys, guess what? And again, I'm speculating. We've got 3 finished sectors and the world sees what DEADROP is now. You see what our game looks like. You can experience our gunplay, our movement. You got all that stuff. UGC, who knows the release date, the roadmap for that is out there. Who knows what parts of that are out at this point. We're talking 6, 7, 8, 9 months down the road at this point. But okay, founders, use those voting rights. Which sector do you want to see added to the game next? What should we focus on? Should we do Sector 5 Foundry? Do you want to see Sector 1 Sewer? Do you want to see X, Y, Z? What do you guys want to see? Vote, and we will make that one next. Maybe, and the proving grounds I don't think are going to go away. We're still going to have access to those, just like a public test realm, which has kind of always been the lore description of those things, is that they're built for testing, and before these environments become sectors, right? That's not going away. That's going to remain. And this would also make the most business sense, right? Because this would open potential revenue streams for Midnight Society, which they do not have right now, and allow them to expand the team more, to invest in the game, to invest in their studio, so on and so forth, with new revenue streams by having the game out there, having new players in the ecosystem, so on and so forth. It does make a lot of sense. I think you would also spend, you know, the next several months deepening the loot pool, like I said, adding more items to actually extract. All these things that, you know, variants and claws, players of the game now have been bringing up in the Discord. I think, you know, Midnight Society does those things over the next several months and make sure that this is, when they launch, a top tier experience, because most games these days, clearly, you launch with a base. You launch with a base of your game, and you hope that players play that game so you can continue building content for it and building upon the world. You have to do that at some point. You know, Escape from Tarkov didn't have you know, the number of maps that they have now at launch, right? The game grew organically. They launched the game. Obviously, it's much bigger now than it was when it launched. Take it back to a game like PUBG, which now has 10 maps, or, you know, different genre. They're talking battle royales now, but BR's launched with one map. That doesn't mean that there's not more to come. And then over time, that's where your kind of your seasonal story and narrative comes in, and you explain, you know, how the claws and so on and so forth are getting access to new portions of the tower, new sectors. There's storyline tied to that, right? Like that's really exciting. Like, and that makes a lot of sense. Like, it would be kind of odd when you think about it for them to launch the game, all 7 sectors, which would be a very tall task, right? 7 finished sectors at launch, and then go, okay, yep, that's it, that's everything, right? Like, there was only 7 sectors in the tower, you got them all, and voila, right? No, there's clearly gonna be, there needs to be content to further develop and add to the game over time. And you could do stuff, of course, like expanding sectors, like, you know, you've got that little extra area of Sector 3 that everybody knows about, and, you know, a lot of people hope that becomes playable space someday. That could be a thing down the road, but you guys get where I'm going with this. Over time, and you explain it with story and so on and so forth, starts as a proving ground, founders test it, so on and so forth. 12 a.m. finishes it, and then, okay, guess what? It's going in the game next season, and it's finished, and here's a story why, and here's a battle pass that ties in. You get it. So again, guys, this is all speculation on my part, just based on some of the comments that have been out there from Dr. Disrespect and so on and so forth. I think you're going to hear from Midnight Society very soon. I think there's some really good, exciting stuff that's cooking, and I think it will be truly very exciting if we do get DEADROP in Q3 2024, Season 0. And again, there's obviously going to have to be things delivered with that, such as, you know, visuals, which are a leap ahead where we are at now, further optimization, probably better, you know, controller play, potentially console, a deeper loot pool, maybe a few more weapons, customization, but like all that stuff that forms a full game will be there, right? That's how I'm envisioning this happening. And when you think about it, this just really makes the most sense to me. Like, if we were gonna wait until 7 sectors were done and arted before putting the game out to the public in open access, free to play, so on and so forth, we're probably looking at quite a while longer. At least it would have to be certainly sometime in 2025, I would think. And, you know, even though there's a ton of people in the community, and especially amongst the founders, who would absolutely test all 7 sectors and block out patiently waiting, you know, I think there's a lot of people chomping at the bit for this game, who want to see what Midnight Society is truly capable of, the full vision for the game to be delivered, and of course it makes a lot of business sense as well to take this game to the next level, launch with a strong base, and then build that base out over time after you've got it out there and it's clicked with gamers. That's basically what video games are in 2023, and now looking at 2024. That's just, especially in the free-to-play model, that is that's the world we live in. So guys, that's what I'm thinking. Remember, none of this is official. This is just me responding to a few 60-second comments on DEADROP by Dr. Disrespect on his stream, and kind of taking a step back, looking at the big picture, and maybe what would be the best for Midnight Society and DEADROP the future of the game, the future of the studio, and so on and so forth, and reaching the most players, which is what all of us want, right? We want those packed lobbies. We want to share this game and this experience with tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and millions of other gamers. I truly think that this could be the best approach, is to polish up maybe these 3 sectors, make them look great, really deliver a strong gameplay experience, and with all sorts of stuff that we expect these days. Launch of that Q3 2023, and then, you know, every so often, whatever amount of time it takes for Brad and the crew to cook up another sector and so on, you launch the next sector, then you launch the next sector, so on and so forth. So let me know what you think down in the comments. I think you're gonna hear from 12 a.m. very soon. So I think there's a lot to be excited about. Truly, this has been a journey, an educational journey for a lot of us who I know are interested in game development ourselves, maybe breaking into the industry, and still lots and lots and lots to come. Leaderboards, short term leaderboards, Lua scripting, tons of stuff, guys. Don't worry, you're gonna hear soon. Talk to you soon. Mayor Reynolds, Midnight Mayor, out.